Look, especially because Filipinos are watching this, right? Like, I'm TNT. I'm still tago ng tago, right? But clearly not tagoing all that much anymore.
Right, you're on TV, yes.
Because I don't have a green card or a passport, and because I have certain limitations, so the goal for me is like how to be creatively limitless and borderless. And I want the work to exist in all the places it can exist. Theater has always been like a first love of mine. I think of this as nothing but a continuation and an evolution of my creative borderless work.
I can feel the excitement, just the enthusiasm from your voice and the way you're explaining it. Like, so how did this start for you?
I saw the show at the Public Theater. The Public Theater is a renowned, place, right? A chorus line, Hamilton, Hair, got started at the Public Theater. So a mentor of mine, Frank Rich, he was a theater critic at the New York Times. He was the one who said to me, hey, there's a show about Filipinos at the Public Theater. I'm like, what? So this was 10 years ago.
Wow.
And I saw it. I saw it 3 times and was just really gobsmacked by it. Fast forward to like 8 years later, Diana de Mena, the only Broadway show I worked on was What the Constitution Means to Me. That was my first show. And she called me 2 years ago now and said, hey, can we still do this show? The Marcoses are back in power. Is it okay for us to do this show? And then she goes, and then how do we create it so that there are more Filipinos who can be involved?
Wow.
Because Broadway is one of the least diverse places when it comes to not necessarily what's on stage, although we're seeing more representation on stage, but also backstage, the producers, right? So she was like, how do we create this space so it's a celebration of Filipinos in all aspects? Diana really walked that talk and created the space so there are more Filipino producers. Like Clint Ramos and I are 2 lead producers of the show, Patrick Catulo and Hal Luftig. But we also have Giselle, she's one of the co-producers. Bobby Garcia is a co-producer. Leia Salonga.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that. It's her first time producing on Broadway.
Right.
And it's also the first time that she's playing a Filipino character on Broadway.
I am getting goosebumps just listening to
So
you.
think about that.
Yes.
So
exactly.
I was in 5th grade at Pasig Catholic College.
Right.
And I think the teacher stopped the class when Leia won.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Right.
And I didn't even realize that she was playing a Vietnamese character, right? So she's been on like 6 Broadway shows and she's never got to play a Filipino role.
Yes.
Leia Salonga.
Because there's not that many that are written like for Filipino roles, right? You touched on something that I was going to ask next, which was the timing. Yeah. So this is planned.
I mean, the show cannot come at a better time, right? And it's not just what's happening in the Philippines. It's what's happening across the world, right? Like fascism, right? And like dictatorship. We're seeing that kind of a growing chorus of what does it mean to live in a democracy and where does the power really lie.
How difficult or easy was it, the journey leading up to this point where you are now pre-selling tickets, right?
Yes.
Sayaw is the code word.
The code. Yes.
Right? What were the pains and what were the gains?
Well, first of all, I've never done this before. So this is really my first time, especially at this level. It's been a real learning experience. But I also think for me, the challenge, and I like to think of the challenge as an opportunity. So this idea that David Byrne and Fatboy Slim wrote this, they're the authors of this piece.
Okay.
But they're not Filipino.
Right.
So then how does, Clint talks a lot about this. How does authorship and ownership coexist? And then how do you tell a specific Filipino story in America? So, from the very beginning, when the show was announced in January, we were very intentional about saying that we're a binational producing team. Right?
Yes, because you have producers also here and in the Philippines. Okay?
And really working with us to make sure that we are representing in all the ways that we can be representing.
How is this different from the others that you've done and the others that, people know you for?
Because I am undocumented. I would not, and I could not be able to do everything that I do if I didn't have people who are allies, who don't let those limitations define me. And I have to say, with this producing team, as I mentioned, Diana de Mena, like she was at the very front of that list. Like you need people to be able to say yes to you when there are many other people and many other limitations that will say, no, you can't, right? So I just see this as an evolution, and I am a very proud Filipino-American. You can't have America without the Philippines and without Filipinos, right? And I think of the show as, in a way, really a cultural watershed. This is a watermark for us.